everyone, it's Jamie from Homeschool Story, and I'm continuing my little video series on the Challenge A subjects. So Classical Conversations Challenge A program, and I've done almost all the subjects already, so now we're on to Rhetoric. So Rhetoric is one of our strands, and this strand is a really neat strand. It's like the first time, if you've been in CC for a long time and you've gone through Foundations and Essentials and you keep asking yourself, I understand the classical part because we do all of this foundational grammar stage work, and I get the Essentials is dialectic, and that challenge is getting rhetorical, but where is all of this rhetorical conversation? The conversation part of Classical Conversations, well, that starts to emerge in Challenge A, and it really gets fully developed in B and higher. But this subject is really the beginning of them learning how to read something, think about something, ask questions about something, and then to even ask, is this what I believe and think based on what I read? Or not, and why? And then to have discussions with people in class. The director sometimes plays a little devil's advocate for you to really help them learn how to build strength in what they believe and why. And so the first book they read, it's upside down, I didn't even realize. The first book they read is this one, It Couldn't Just Happen. And it says Knowing the Truth About God's Awesome Creation, and this is a really neat book. I think it does an amazing and honest and fair job of presenting the different views, the different theories, the different schools of thought. It talks about and goes into detail, like about Darwin and why did he come up with what he did, and what did he really say versus what do people say that he said. As well as all kinds of other theories. I think it does a great job of putting things out there and letting you really have to ponder and think about those things. So I highly recommend this book. It's a great book even for kids if you're not in CC, or even for the last year foundations, to start reading this book together with your child and then let them come back and read it again the next year in Challenge A, because it's a lot, it's a lot to think about. So you need this book. Later on in second semester, you're going to switch over, once you finish this, to Fallacy Detective. And this is also the beginning of logic. So later in Challenge B, and again in Challenge 2 and Challenge 3, they're going to have more formal logic courses. But this is just being able to recognize poor logic. So poor reasoning. What is reasoning, and how is it used, and how can people be manipulated by like the media, or you hear a speech and they say something and you just are persuaded to believe it. So this helps them really dig into recognizing bad reasoning, it says, and so it's really neat. It's the beginning of logic, like I said, and of thinking about truth and what people say. So this is a little book, and they basically read it and answer questions at the end. Okay, so what do you need for Rhetoric? Well, you need both of these books. You need a place to write, because when you're reading this book, it's encouraged and it's assigned that they do chapter summaries. So within each chapter, there's little sections. And so they have this page in the back of the guide. Let me show you. And this is, again, my writing and rhetoric book, because both subjects are kind of small as far as how much space they take up. But in the back of the Challenge A guide, this is page 90. It has these rhetoric, It Couldn't Just Happen, little summary sheets. And they put the chapter and the title of the chapter, and then the section names, and a little brief couple line summary area of what happened in that section. And so they can take some keyword outline notes. They can maybe copy down a sentence that they've read that kind of sums up something to help them remember, or that was interesting, or that they even had a question about that was in that section. And so it's just kind of gets them to read a little bit deeper. So these are here for them to do. So that's something that they can do there. So I have copies of that. And then they have their Catechism Questions. So these questions come some from the topics studied in the It Couldn't Just Happen book, and some are scripture, and some are definitions of words, and those words sometimes come from the chapter. So that's kind of like a mix of different things, but they're catechism in the sense that they're an ask and answer. They're kind of like memory work and foundations. So they're things like, what does the evolution of theory state? What does the greenhouse effect theory suggest? And describe the sun. But then you also have things like, what does the heavens declare? Let's see, what else? What is a fossil? What is the definition of good science? So all of these things. And so they have these in the guide. This is page like 160, 161, it goes on. And each week they're assigned a certain number of these. And they need to know them. So in this section where it says catechism, it's just the pages from the guide. She doesn't write anything in here because we do it on a flashcard. Now you could do it like we do our geography terms and just make a list of them, but we like to be able to quiz, you know, have her quiz herself, or I can quiz her. So we have this little these little note cards on a ring, and she writes the question and then the answer on the back, and we go through and quiz her every day. So that's how that works. So she has her catechism questions here, and these are building up, you know, through the year. So that's how that works. So summaries and catechism questions. When you get to this part, there are questions at the end of the chapter that they're supposed to answer. So they can write those answers as well. Instead of it being summary, it will just have paper for her to answer her fallacy detective questions. So that's it. That's how we set up for rhetoric. And I do encourage them to highlight in the book. You saw that. And to annotate as they read. And make sure that we're memorizing all of those catechism questions. So that's it. I hope that helps you, and feel free to share any ideas you have or any fun bits of information that you think would really go well with our rhetoric strand. See you guys later.